Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This week on Semi-Serious, I am joined by a guest. It's Brady!
Hi.
Brady is my fiance and I love him very much and I'm very thankful that he's here today. And today we're going to be talking about relationship advice, or in other words, 6 things that we've learned in our 6 years together. Because we just recently celebrated our 6-year anniversary from when we started dating. So yeah, let's get started. I feel like a dweeb.
Do you not always? When you're vlogging?
I always feel self-conscious when I talk to a camera.
Yeah, that's normal. I feel like we need to also offer a disclaimer when we say we're giving relationship advice.
No.
Okay.
We're the experts.
Okay.
We know everything.
Just because we're talking about this stuff doesn't mean we're good at it.
No, we're the best.
No.
We don't make any mistakes ever, and we are always good at everything that we do the first time that we try it, including vlogging.
I feel like it should be said that all of the things we're going to talk about today we've sucked at one point.
That's true. I have to learn everything the hard way, and these things that I'm talking about today were definitely no exception. But that's part of the reason why I wanted to make this and why I wanted to ask Brady for his help, because we lived it, we are living it still to an extent. I mean, all joking aside, relationships are a lot of work, and hopefully these can help you not make the same mistakes that we have made and continue to make.
Or just feel a sense of camaraderie that there are other couples making a lot of mistakes.
Who are still happy and, have a good relationship but still make mistakes.
You want to start?
No, you start.
You want me to start?
Yeah, I want you to start.
Okay. My first point would be to surround yourself with people who are gunning for your relationship, not necessarily for you individually. And I think this is something we don't really think about a lot in our American society, because I think that we're sort of protecting ourselves or sort of bracing ourselves for breakups. When one of our friends is dating someone, we tend to align ourselves with them and not the person they're dating. And so there's just this constant sort of schism in a relationship when it's like his side and her side. And that's really problematic when any sort of conflict comes up, because it divides everyone down this big rift. And so I think it's pretty rare to find people who are willing to fight for your relationship if they have a better relationship with one of you than the other. But it's worth it, because and it's worth being that person in other people's relationships, to fight for that relationship instead of just fighting for the person you've known longer or you're better acquainted with or whatever. I mean, every person in a relationship is a person, and they're all flawed, and they all ultimately want a healthy relationship. And maybe that's not possible with the person that they're with, but everyone wants a healthy relationship. It's worthwhile to analyze the people you've surrounded yourself with as a couple and see if they're really interested in your relationship, or if they're just interested in one party in that relationship. Because those are the people who are interested in only one party in the relationship, or feel like they're taking a side, are not the kind of people you want close to you when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, and I would add that there's also a difference between being a good friend and sticking up for a friend or a loved one who you feel is in an abusive relationship or an unhealthy relationship, and being a supportive friend or loved one to someone who's in a healthy relationship who is experiencing challenges and difficulties. It's important to basically familiarize yourself with the differences between an unhealthy relationship, those patterns of behavior, and healthy relationships that are just struggling. And this is something that Brady and I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately. I couldn't rely on the people around me to support my relationship and to call me out on the things that I was doing wrong that were contributing to the relationship struggles, like not not communicating, which brings me into my first point, which is the importance of communication. So that's, I guess, point number 2. How important it is to communicate yourself. And this is something that gets bandied about a lot in any kind of like relationship video or relationship advice or relationship column or whatever. People are always like, well, you have to communicate. And I think that a lot of people don't understand what that means. What I had a hard time learning was how to be honest. How to be honest about what I need and what I want. One thing I would say about that to people who haven't been through, like they're not in a relationship or they haven't been in a serious or committed relationship where you have to learn those things, is that you may not realize the level of vulnerability that communicating yourself honestly requires. It requires you to trust your partner a lot, to be honest with them about what you want and what you need, because sometimes it's going to be at odds with what they want and what they need. But you have to trust that that person loves you and wants the best for you and will be glad that you were honest with them. And if they're not, then that's not healthy. That's a sign that you may not be with the right person.
We tend to judge relationships, the communication in relationships, on communication that hasn't happened. You think that you're communicating yourself, and the other person doesn't feel like you've communicated anything at all, and they're judged based on how they react to communication they haven't received. Sometimes she'll say things that, or hint at things, or expect me to understand things that I haven't received. It's not that I've heard it and I've decided to do nothing about it, it's that I haven't heard it at all and she assumes I have.
Another important thing to realize for someone who's super sensitive, like I am, is also that sometimes you may hear something that your partner is saying that they're not actually saying at all, because if they're saying, like, for example, this happens a lot because I watch a lot of YouTube, and Brady will come over and be like, "What are you doing?" And in my head, it's, why aren't you doing this other thing that you know you should be doing? Because that's in my head anyway, but then it's not helpful for me to assume that that's what he means when he's actually literally just asking me what I am, in fact, doing. Try to give your partner the benefit of the doubt where possible, if you're super sensitive like I am, and say, you know, he or she is probably not trying to hurt my feelings by asking something that's as simple as, what are you doing? It's not a criticism. It's not inherently a criticism.
Don't be the kind of person in a relationship who demands a presentation at each communication. Communicating is not the same as working up a presentation for your partner and this is what I want and this is how we will do it and here's a solution and here's an agenda and a point-by-point comparison with other models.
This is why I want this.
This is why I want this. You don't have to have everything worked out, and she or he does not need to have everything worked out in order to come to you. It's better to be open and honest in your communication instead of perfect.
Yes. This is a big topic.
Yeah.
We could do a whole video about this,
Yeah.
but we should probably move on.
Okay. My second point, so this would be point number 3, would be to constantly reassess your priorities. I think that to just say my wife or my husband or my fiance or my boyfriend or my girlfriend is my number one priority is a really quick way to take them for granted. And I think that taking people for granted is the bane of relationships. I think taking people for granted kills more relationships than anything else. And so every couple of months, I'll open my journal and write out what my priorities are for that time. What is most important to me, what I'm trying to accomplish, and what I'm spending my time and energy on. And I will write Caitlin at the top of that list every time, and the act of doing that is important because you reassess, have I been living this out? Have I been treating her in the last couple months like she is on the top of my priorities list? And I think people who take a vow and say, you will always be the most important thing in my life, and then never reassess that, or never look back on it, or never think about it critically, will take that for granted and say, yeah, of course you're my number one priority, but then just not live it out because they get comfortable with however the situation unfolds.
I totally agree, and as you're talking about it now, I'm like, how do I do that? And I am realizing that I don't have a good way of doing that. And so I need to figure out how I'm reminding myself to put you first at the top of my priorities list. Because it is important, it's really important, and I don't want to take you for granted, so that's something that I actually have to think about now. I've been slacking on that because I suck at giving gifts, and that's one of the ways that Brady really goes above and beyond in showing me love and appreciation and stuff, and I just suck at it. Talking about the ways in which I show appreciation for Brady, which do not unfortunately include gift giving very often, leads me into my second point, aka point number 4, which is how important love languages are. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 5 love languages. It was, I think, a book. The 5 love languages, I guess I should go over first. 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, gifts, and acts of service. The love languages, 5 love languages, are really important when it comes to getting to know your partner in a meaningful way, and also loving them the way that they need to be loved. And I think that this is important for any relationship that you want to grow, and that you want to be healthy, and that you want to be sustaining and life-giving for everybody involved. You need to know this about your partner. It just drains you completely if you are thinking like, well, I don't understand why you don't feel loved. I love you so much, and these are the ways that I've shown you love. And they're like, yeah, but that's not how I feel love. We disregarded it for so long that it ended up being a huge problem in our relationship because we both felt like we were missing love, and we both also simultaneously felt like we were loving each other as much as we possibly could, and we were just doing it in the wrong ways. And it's frustrating to realize that because it feels like you've expended so much emotional energy already, and then you have to do it again.
You look very pretty, by the way.
Thank you. See, it's so easy.
It's very easy. You tend to be better at giving the love language that you want to receive. So if you want to know what someone's love language is, it's a sure bet is to look at what they dish out.
Oh, and another thing is that usually withholding that or doing the opposite of somebody's primary love language is like a surefire way to hurt them. So also be aware of that. For me, words of affirmation are incredibly uplifting and helpful, and I love receiving them, but criticism, I have a really hard time receiving criticism because it feels more hurtful to me than it does to somebody whose primary love language isn't words of affirmation.
Yeah. And I'm really good at dealing out criticism.
He's capable of that, but he's also capable of the other way around, and because he's a very strong person and he is good at learning.
Oh, so. You're so good at saying nice things about me.
I'm just saying, like, I don't want people to get the wrong idea about you. He's working really hard on it. We both are. We struggled a lot with this, and now we're working on it, and we're getting better.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a great segue into my final point, which is point number 5 total. And that is the most important thing that I've learned about relationships, and that is that love is fuel. And criticism is kind of like a jump start. I think that It's like concentrated electricity, a jolt to the battery. And if you try to jumpstart a car that has no fuel in it, you're not going anywhere. If you pour fuel into it, then maybe that criticism can be received and can actually be useful. But you have to pour a whole lot of fuel into someone's tank in order for them to go anywhere. Advice that I would give to anyone who feels like starved or depressed or alone in a relationship, or if you feel frustrated with how your partner is acting, if they seem down and depressed all the time, try giving them fuel. And I don't think that this is given enough credence in our society, that fuel, that love itself is a propellant. It's an accelerant. And you can go way farther than you think you can if someone is loving on you. In such a case where you find yourself starved for love, you probably are both starved for love because you're loving each other in the wrong ways like we did. Just try pouring some love that they need into their tank and see where it goes, because you will not be emptying yourself if you're giving them the right fuel. Life is a bitch, and but together it's beautiful. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much when you're doing hard things to feel like a failure, and that's why it's really important for us to continually pour into each other. So,
yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you said.
Okay, cool.
I don't have a good segue from that into my last point.
What's your last point?
My last point is to respect each other's space. It's fine to have your own hobbies and your own interests and your own things that you like to do, your own friends. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's been something that has been kind of difficult for me because I don't have a lot of friends or a huge community here, and Brady is kind of my only person that I hang out with very often or talk to. Brady plays video games a lot, and it was difficult for me at first because I was jealous of the time that he spent playing video games because I didn't understand what it meant for him and how important it was for him to be able to relax and to be able to also hang out and spend time with his best friend back in Colorado because they play on Xbox Live, and so they're able to actually hang out and spend quality time together playing video games. And so that was difficult for a little while, but we were able to work through it because we have learned all of the other 5 things on this list the hard way, and now we practice them on the regular, and basically we're getting better. And sometimes I like to wear a full face of makeup before I go to the gym, and that's something that Brady just has to deal with. So goes both ways. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe because I put out new videos every week. And yeah, thank you very much, Brady, for being in this video with me and for talking about the things that we've learned and for loving me and for marrying me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I hope that you can hear this music that's happening. It is Sunday, people. It is supposed to be a quiet day. Is it a holiday? Probably. It's Bavaria. Every day is a holiday. It's gonna be weird if this doesn't get caught on the camera.
Not if you don't post it, to cut this part out.